So I've given, admittedly, way too much thought to how to open a show. Try to listen to other podcasts, take what they do. I've tried a few different strategies here. I really like the stat to start off the show. I think that's, give the people some math right off the bat. Yeah. My guy Rosillo, he does the ironic open, which tells me he too is uncomfortable with the way to open a show. But today, I got some inspiration on the way into work.
Okay.
I'm gonna open today like Stuart Mandel.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the Bootleg Show. I'm Colby, and as always, I'm joined by Kyle Brackey, and it is football season, and we are really excited. This is Bootleg right now. Kyle, college football is 2 days away as of right now. Depending on how fast we get this up, it may be like one-ish day away. Yeah. Point is, Saturday,
thank God,
go time.
We made it.
And no more days before our next podcast, because here we are. On today's show, we're going to go heavy on some CAA football. We have an interview with Delaware quarterback Pacquiao, and we have some scorching hot predictions. I will not dare call them takes. They are predictions.
And they will absolutely be correct.
They will all come true. And they're all, CAA, FCS predictions, whatever. But first, no time wasted on the small talk this week because this is a real serious moment here. Again, college football is upon us. Sound the alarms. And if we're going to be the only podcast in America that can handle talking about both the FBS and the FCS, we got to get rolling.
Let's do it.
So let's get right to it. Top 10 team. That won't be great is what it says here in my notes, and here's the explanation for that.
Okay.
I do have a stat. I didn't lead the show with it. I held on to it, but I got one for you. Did you know that 40% of the teams ranked in the initial AP poll will fall out of the rankings by the end of the year?
Wow.
Wow is right, and every year a team from the top 10 falls all the way out of the rankings. So my question for you, sir.
They fall all the way out by the end of the year, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So my question is, what top 10 team do you see that you think they're doomed?
I don't know if they're doomed, but I do see them falling out of the rankings, and it is Notre Dame.
Oh.
They kind of got exposed, for lack of a better word, in the national semifinal last year.
They always get exposed when they play in anything resembling a national final or semifinal.
Correct. But Ian Book's back, but they do lose a lot in a lot of other places. And the schedule is just tough. Road games at Michigan, Georgia, and Stanford.
That's minimum 2 L's.
Exactly. And they usually don't fare very well going to Stanford. But then they play bowl teams, Virginia Tech, Duke, and Boston College. And then you throw in rivalry games against USC and Navy, which those are always kind of weird. USC almost pulled the upset on Notre Dame last year and ruined the playoff bid. I don't know. I just don't feel really confident in kind of the ebb and flow of Notre Dame football over the past 10 years is you have the really highs, and then you have a 4-6 season in there, and then you're 8-5, and then you're 9-4.
Fire Brian Kelly, and then he wins 12 games, and you're like, never mind.
Exactly.
And then you start the whole thing over again.
It's like a never-ending cycle, and I think they're cycling down right now, and I could see it. You lose to Stanford, and then maybe Virginia's close, but then you'd stumble at Virginia Tech. I just see them going like an 8-5.
Sidebar on USC. This might be a hot take as opposed to a hot prediction, but I think that USC actually has a pretty good year. I think they could get back to 10 wins.
They feel like Florida State does last year for me, not as in they're going to be awful, but as in going into the season, I don't know what to expect.
Sure.
Like, I don't have a good feel for them whatsoever.
Well, here's the basis for me saying that. I believe in JT Daniels, and I believe in Graham Harrell.
Yes.
I would have believed in Cliff just the same, but
absolutely.
If you're going to lose Cliff, there's no better guy to follow up that with than Graham Harrell.
Yeah.
I was literally reading an article about Mason Fine in North Texas and had Graham Harrell in it. and it reminded me how great he is.
Yeah.
So to be able to do what he did at North Texas, and taking nothing away from Mason Fine, because the kid is a baller, but to do what Harold did at North Texas and then put him at USC with all the athletes they have and JT Daniels pulling the trigger, I think people are pretty down on USC. I think they might actually be good. That wasn't in my notes, but I just thought I felt compelled to let you know. The only thing I would say about Notre Dame is, like, they're going to have to lose like 5 times before they're going to drop out of the top 25 because people will never let Notre Dame go.
Well, that's the problem is you're right. No matter how bad they were the year before, they are always in the preseason poll, and they will always get the benefit of the doubt. But like you said, I see 8-5. I can see an 8-5.
Yeah. No, you mapped it out quite well.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Notre Dame is much like Texas in the fact that they are perennially overhyped.
Yep. And
you might think that I would go Texas here.
I would.
My well-documented history of not particularly loving the Longhorns, but I'm not doing that. To me, while I respect the Notre Dame choice, I thought Florida leaped out at me when I started looking at this and trying to figure it out.
Okay.
They begin the year ranked number 8, almost entirely based on what happened last year in the bowl game. Mm-hmm. So obviously they go to the Peach Bowl, they dominate Michigan, no doubt about that. Problem is, it's the exact same scenario that played out with Georgia and Texas. Texas beats the hell out of Georgia. Well, both Georgia and Michigan at one point, very late in the year, thought they were playing for a college football playoff berth, a national championship. Mm-hmm. Everything was in front of them. And as far as Michigan goes, they, first off, went into the Ohio State game thinking they're going to break that losing skid to Ohio State.
Yep.
They have a great defense. Everything is looking up. And then not only do they lose to Ohio State, they give up like 145 points in that game. So that takes a little bit of the wind out of your sail. And as a result of losing that game, they also don't play for a Big Ten title, double whammy. And as a result of not playing for a Big Ten title, not beating Ohio State, they also don't go to the college football playoffs. So the whole year fell apart on them. And then they go into the Peach Bowl, and they have multiple key players who decide not to play in that game. So I don't mean to say, hey, Florida, you don't get credit for winning the Peach Bowl. What I'm saying is if we're going to base their ranking off of that one game, I think that's ill-advised because we're forgetting about the fact that they got Michigan's D-plus game, first of all. So there's that. But we're also forgetting completely about the inconsistency of Felipe Franks, which was season-long. We're forgetting that they should have probably lost in Starkville 100 different ways, and they didn't. They did lose to Missouri, and they played what may have been the weakest non-conference schedule in the SEC, which is truly remarkable because there's a demonstrated history of not playing elite non-conference opponents in that league, and rightfully so, but that's another story for another day. So am I saying that Florida is going to be awful? No, not necessarily, but I am saying that the schedule is not awesome for a program that, again, is leaning heavily on Felipe Franks. And as far as who he's throwing the ball to, you've got a core group of wideouts that barely collectively tallied 1,200 yards last year as a group. Mm-hmm. Not great either. You'd like for like a guy to do that for you. They got Miami in the opener, obviously, so call that 1-0. Fine. I don't know that it's going to be that easy, but call it 1-0. Tennessee Martin after that, 2-0. At Kentucky, which is far more dangerous than you would think number 8 versus unranked would be, I think.
No, it is.
And then Tennessee comes to Gainesville. So if you want to give them wins against Miami, Kentucky, and Tennessee, fine, call them 4-0. Then they've got Tom Flacco and the mighty Towson Tigers coming to Gainesville.
Uh-huh.
So even if they survive Towson, and I'm not ready to put one in the win column for them quite yet there, but if they survive Towson, here's the next 4. Auburn, LSU, South Carolina, Georgia. That feels a whole lot like 1-3 to me.
Yeah.
So now you're at 6-3, and you've got Vandy, who led in the fourth quarter last year. Mm-hmm. You've got Missouri, who beat you at home last year. And you've got Florida State, who, I don't know what they're going to be.
Yeah.
Florida State can go 10-2, and it wouldn't shock me. They could also go, 4-8, and it wouldn't shock me. So that's how they end up. So much like you're projecting 4 or 5 losses for Notre Dame, I think that feels like 8-4. And that's 8-4 only if you handle your business, again, against Miami and Kentucky in weeks 1 and 3.
Yeah.
So
it's very sound logic.
I think it's really sound logic. I think it's genius logic, actually. So give me Florida to drop out of the top 25. And I didn't mean to begin on a sour note, with the underachieving team. So let's pick it back up here. Let's go positive note with the overachieving team because I've got more fun facts for you. Washington State last year, win total 6.5 this time a year ago. Leach and the boys go 11-2. They get as high as number 7. They finish the year ranked number 10. Give me a team with a win total of 6.5 or lower who you think could finish inside the top 10.
Okay, I don't like this very much, the team that I selected, but it was the most appealing to me. Arizona has a win total of 6.5.
Khalil Tate.
And yes, this all hinges on Khalil Tate being 2017 version of Khalil Tate and not last year's version.
Not 18 Khalil Tate.
Correct. I think the second year in a Kevin Sumlin offense, they have a lot more time to figure out how to use him, what's the best way to use him, and also he's healthy because he was not for 90% of last year. And also you look at their first 5 games: Hawaii, Northern Arizona, Texas Tech, UCLA, Colorado.
You should probably run that table if you
worst case 4-1, but if you want to be in the top 10, this needs to be 5-0. You get the 2 maybe best Pac-12 teams, Washington and Utah, at home.
That helps.
USC is a road game, but as we just talked, who knows what they'll look like in mid-October. Really don't know.
I'm leaning toward good.
And then Stanford and Oregon are your 2 tough road games. But if Khalil Tate is Khalil Tate, I think they absolutely could put together like a 10-2, 11-2 type season that we saw last year from Washington State.
Yeah, and all they got to do is finish in the top 10. So even if they finish the year 9-2, get into the Fiesta Bowl or whatever, then sure. And I mean, look, when Sumlin got to Arizona, Khalil Tate was billed as Johnny Manziel 2.0, or Johnny Manziel light. Let's not get crazy, I guess. But he wasn't anything even close to that last year. They used him in a really confusing way. But again, as you alluded to, that was due to injury, we hope.
I think so, yeah.
So, assuming that they get right and they play him the way that Rich Rod played him, I can see that. And
I think we all were so confused with how they used him because, like you said, someone had a guy that could run before in Johnny Manziel. It was like he never had a running quarterback before.
Yeah. He acted like he didn't know what to do
with
it. I'm like, no, you know what to do with it. Just go watch that A&M tape, bud.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I like that pick. I went to the Big Ten. I went Northwestern.
Okay.
They have a win total of 6.5. They went 9-5 last year, despite ranking 100th in scoring offense and 108th in total offense. And they're losing the quarterback, Clayton Thorson, who started a Big Ten record 53 games. I keep coming with the fun facts.
You do. I love it.
Here's what I would say about that. Actually, good news that they're going to lose Thorson. Because originally he was a dual threat quarterback, and he was never really the same after he tore his ACL in the bowl game in 2017. So with him out of the picture, enter former 5-star prospect, former Clemson Tiger, Hunter Johnson. And I think that the Northwestern offense should enjoy a pretty significant uptick this year with Johnson. I think he's going to be able to do a lot of things that we just didn't see from Thorson. He's a more polished passer. He's a really underrated athlete. Yeah. And if he lives up to his potential, Northwestern's got him a dude who could quite literally be the best quarterback they've ever had. So you throw Hunter Johnson into the mix, and you know Pat Fitzgerald's team is going to play great defense, or at least above average defense. And that's a unit that returns Joe Gaziano, who's 2-time All-Big Ten. They've got the pride of Ireland, Paddy Fisher. 229 tackles and 2 All-Big Ten selections in 2 years for that kid.
It's impressive.
And Greg Newsome, who emerged as a truly lockdown corner for them a year ago. So defensively, they lose some. They've got, I think, 5 or 6 returning starters, which is not incredible, but the guys they've got coming back are key guys. So I like the defense. I trust Pat Fitzgerald always with the defense anyway. If they can move the ball at all on offense, 9-5 should be no problem. But I'm thinking, they don't play Michigan this year. They've got Ohio State at home. And they close with this little run right here. Iowa, Indiana, Purdue, UMass, shout out, Minnesota, and Illinois before the Big Ten Championship, of course. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins in a row to end the year.
Dang.
The trick is going to be getting through the preceding run of Michigan State on the road at Wisconsin and Nebraska, and then, again, like I said, at home against Ohio State. If they get through that at no worse than 2-2 or 3-1, depending on what happens in the opener with Stanford, obviously, that's a team that could very easily be headed to the Big Ten title game with just a couple of losses and a shot to win the Big Ten title game. And who knows, after that, no two-loss team has gone to the playoff. I'm not projecting that Northwestern at a 6.5 win total is going to the playoff. I'm just saying, no Michigan, Ohio State at home, and a real soft little run down the stretch there in their final 6.
Yeah.
So if it all comes down to Hunter Johnson, if Hunter Johnson is who I think he is, then Northwestern is going to be a very, very good football team this year.
I like it.
I have an honorable mention.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have an honorable mention, and that is Oklahoma State, also with the 6.5 wins. If I knew that Spencer Sanders was going to be the guy, then I'd assume that by now he is who we all thought he was when he was piling up yards at Denton Ryan. And if I could assume that, then I would also assume that Oklahoma State has its best quarterback since Brandon Whedon. And if you think back, arguably, he should be better than Brandon Whedon, and he's only a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
Could be the best quarterback they ever have by the time he's done playing. And I would also know that guy is being paired with Tylan Wallace, who can make an argument for the Biletnikoff Award this year. Dylan Stoner. Yeah, absolutely. Dylan Stoner, who's a veteran, sure-handed dude on the outside, and a veteran offensive line. And I would know that offense is playing with a defense whose strength is that they have a veteran secondary. And if you're playing in the Big 12, having a veteran secondary is a very nice thing to have on defense. And if I knew all of that, I'd look at their schedule and I would go Oregon State, McNeese, Tulsa, that's 3 wins. At Texas, most would call that an L. I'd call it a toss-up. Kansas State, Tech, and Baylor, 3 wins maybe. I don't know about Baylor, but that feels pretty comfortable to me.
Yeah.
And then they go at Iowa State. Okay, that's tough. And then TCU, KU, and West Virginia. That is a win. That's a win. And
probably a win.
And that would put them at no worse than 9-2 heading into Bedlam. OU coming to Stillwater. Anything happens in Bedlam, I'm still not totally comfortable with what Oklahoma is going to be this year, which feels sacrilegious to say. But, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But even if they're elite, there have been elite programs at Oklahoma that had a hard time with Oklahoma State in that game and in Stillwater in particular. However, as of August 22nd, 2019, I don't know that he's going to be their quarterback. Therefore, I don't know that he's actually as good as I thought he was.
Right.
And therefore, I don't know any of the things I just said.
You would think he would be the guy, but apparently Drew Brown is making it difficult.
Drew Brown's definitely got the experience, but if the Sanders I saw at Denton Ryan can replicate that at Oklahoma, my goodness. But
no, I'm with you on that.
He's not leaping out at him, I guess. I don't know. They're slow playing the quarterback competition, so that's why Oklahoma State did not make the cut. Northwestern is my team.
Both teams will be in the top 10. I can feel it.
You think?
By the end of the year.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
All right, new face, new place. Moving right along here.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, of all the transfers, and now with the transfer portal, there is plenty of options to choose from. Who will be a guy that really, really excels at his next school?
So I chose a guy that recently I have been hearing a lot of people question and say, well, I'm not sure what we've got here, and we won't know, and blah, blah, blah. And it's Justin Fields at Ohio State, and I don't understand why anybody is questioning this. I know it was a very small sample size last year, but he completed 70% of his passes, had 4 touchdowns and very limited action too. He can also beat with his feet. He didn't get a chance to do it very often last year with Georgia. They didn't run him very much. He had like 100 yards rushing in the couple games he appeared in. But then you surround him with the talent that is at Ohio State and a Ryan Day who is an offensive guru and I think will build the right game plan around him. And I just don't understand why everybody's like, I'm not sure what we've got here and we need to see him prove it and all that. And obviously he does need to go out there and play well. But at the same time, I don't understand why we don't have the same like expectations for him as we do like a Jalen Hurts or something like that. Because I think he's kind of like a Jalen Hurts, except he's probably a better passer. I don't know. I just feel like it's a really good fit. And with the weapons that he has, he's going to have a really good year.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think with regard to Jalen, I think that Fields is a guy that's got Trevor Lawrence level upside, which is to say that he has he has the opportunity to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, a high NFL draft pick. All of that is right in front of him. People are more comfortable with Jalen just because they watched him win at Alabama.
Sure.
But was that a product of Jalen or was that a product of Alabama? Because you saw what happened to that offense when they put Tua behind center instead of Jalen, and that's the reason that Jalen never got his job back. The upside with Fields is way higher than with Jalen, in my opinion. So I'm kind of with you.
And you look at Ohio State's schedule. I mean, you close with Penn State and Michigan. Those are your two toughest games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see more than 2 losses. So you're looking at a 10-2 team at probably worst. Maybe 9-3, which I don't see happening. So you're in the top 10, and Justin Fields is going to have a big – I'm not saying he's going to be Dwayne Haskins, throw 50 touchdowns.
No, but he might be
that's
JT Barrett.
insane. Yeah, right, which is 30-some touchdowns through the air and another 15 on the ground.
Yeah. No, I like that pick a lot. If I were starting a team on NCAA football, the video game, I would want to start it with Justin Fields.
Okay.
But that game doesn't exist, and I'm not doing that.
R.I.P.
I'm going to go with a guy who I know pretty well, and that is Austin Kendall, who obviously arrived at West Virginia by way of Oklahoma. Supposedly a guy who pushed one of the all-time greats in college football history, I think we could all agree, at least statistically,
Absolutely.
to the brink last year. And I don't really know what went down with Jalen coming to Oklahoma and Austin departing. I mean, it seemed like Lincoln Riley was, to some degree, caught off guard by Kendall's departure, which feels insane to actually say out loud because
Right.
How would you not see that coming when you brought Jalen in? But all that to say that this is the first kid that Lincoln Riley brought to Oklahoma as a coordinator, and this is a 4-star prospect that, by all accounts, was an elite thrower of the football when he got to Oklahoma. And he's a guy that Riley was not excited to watch leave. So I don't know if he thought he was going to manufacture a new quarterback competition. Probably not for either guy. Was that going to be a realistic scenario? But yeah, what I do know is I've seen Austin Kendall with my own eyeballs, and I know that he's got a live arm. He's got underrated athleticism. Anytime he was in the game for Oklahoma, whether it be a spring game or mop-up duty last year, he commands the offense. There wasn't a noticeable drop-off in production when you would go from Kyler to Austin Kendall at any point. And quite frankly, I think he has a chance to go to West Virginia and replicate the success that Will Grier enjoyed as a powerhouse transfer that blows up at West Virginia. And the last thing I would say is, of everything being made about the departure of Grier and Sills and Jennings, and obviously as it pertains to Austin, Jennings and Sills are the more important of the three, that does hurt, but TJ Simmons is sitting there waiting to have a breakout year. I mean, that's another guy that was very highly touted before he got to Alabama. Tevin Bush is a dude. Every running back on that team is back, including Kennedy McCoy. All that to say that he's going to have a ton of weapons. He should probably have a chip on his shoulder. I think that's kind of the culture at West Virginia at this point, is play with a chip on your shoulder, and a guy like Kendall should have no trouble figuring that out. And I think he's going to have a big year.
I like it.
People are sleeping on him.
Good. Let him sleep.
All right, we've been nice. Now let's be mean. New face, new place. Who will not be good?
I think when you originally told me about this, you were looking for a player, but I immediately thought coach.
And that's even better.
Les Miles. I do not think the Les Miles experiment is going to go well.
I think it's incredibly doomed.
Yes, it is.
It's waiting to be awful.
It has a little bit to do with Les and a lot to do with where Kansas already is before he got there. The little bit that has to do with Les is he got fired at LSU because he couldn't evolve his offense.
Mm-hmm.
He could not bring his offense into the 21st century.
No.
Defense, not the problem.
Not the problem.
The offense could not score.
Very much a problem.
And in the Big 12, that is a huge problem. Yeah. That's a massive problem. What is going on? Jeff Long, I believe, is an AD at Kansas. I think he just wanted to splash higher.
They're both Michigan men, too.
Okay, there you go. I think he just wanted to splash higher, and there's no doubt Les is going to bring energy. And he had Rick Ross at the spring game, and he's dancing in the meeting rooms, and he's going to do all that stuff, but that stuff doesn't translate to wins on the field. I I don't know, man. And they're still in this huge scholarship hole that Charlie Weiss put them in. I know that was one of the biggest issues with David Beatty last year, and why there was hey, we should keep David Beatty around because he's working on solving this the right way with high school recruits.
Right.
I know the reason they got in this hole is because Charlie Weiss just tried to go out and get a bunch of JUCO kids right away. Half of them didn't make it to the season, so you're down all these scholarships. I know last year they were at 70, and they're probably still right around there with graduation and all that stuff, and you can only sign 25 a class. I don't know. I just don't see this working out very well.
I'm with you. And it didn't help anything that the only good player on his team, Pooka Williams, had the weird suspension and then came back, and now he's suspended for a game, and then there's that as well. And Pooka's the only thing they got going for him.
Yes.
I mean, and frankly, probably the reason he's still on the team at KU is he's the only thing they got going for him. And he looked great against Oklahoma in a 30-point loss. But
that's the thing.
He looked great.
You can have these awesome games at running back and still not factor into the game whatsoever.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think that KU is going to get treated the same way this year that they've gotten treated the last several years with David Beatty. And also, at least with Beatty, there was a path, or you could kind of see a path. With Les, I don't know what that is. Les cannot – he's at Kansas, he's not going to be able to recruit any of the same players he got to LSU. No. The defenses he had at LSU were built on athleticism and speed and size.
NFL dudes.
And guess what? You can't get size or athleticism or speed up to Lawrence, Kansas right now. It's just not going to happen. So I don't know. I'm with you. I think that's going to crash and burn. I went with my best friend Tathan Martell.
Okay.
And it loses a little pop now that he's failed to even win the starting job at Miami. But this dude, man, I mean, I couldn't stand him on QB1, which now that I've watched 2 episodes, I think Nick Scalzo may take over that role for me.
You haven't got to the Freedom Bowl episode
No,
yet?
not yet. Okay. I got through 2 last night, and I wanted to fight Scalzo by the end of it. And I'm not even to that. I'm not even to that one yet. And apparently Ryan Day wasn't a big fan in real life because rather than just promote your former 4 or 5-star quarterback or whatever he was to the starting spot, he was like, I'm going to go get a transfer. Sorry, Tate. And all he does is subtweet stupid things that ultimately make him look very, very dumb. So is he a great athlete? Yeah, you bet. Should he be, the starting quarterback of Miami? I don't know. His skill set would suggest that maybe he should be. But will he be? No, because he's a jackass, and you don't win a locker room over with a jackass. I think that's why Jaron Williams is a starter for Miami. I really think it's that simple. I think Manny Diaz looked at the two and said, this guy's never going to win over a huddle. This guy's already won over the huddle.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that guy.
How about him not going to practice the day he was not named the starting quarterback?
Well, he had a mental health day. I can't believe that.
Did you see that he was also trying out wide receiver? He was dabbled. I swear, he dabbled at a couple practices at wide receiver. God. We talked about this in kind of when we were on the road trip, and with a lot of these guys, why not go somewhere where you're going to play right away?
Yeah.
And so going to Miami, you had Williams, you had N'Kosi Perry already there. You just wanted to go to a big-name program, essentially.
Yeah, but this is the same guy that thought he would go to A&M and just immediately start over Starkle.
Yeah.
Which Kellen Mond did, but I'm just saying he didn't.
No, I know. And that's the thing is these guys have egos, and they think they're the best to ever play the game. And when all reality is now he is just wasting time. Mm-hmm. He's getting like you said on the road trip, he's getting no tape. Nothing on film. Yeah, no tape. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I can just see a MAC school or a group of 5 school, in the American being a perfect fit. You come in there, you're going to be more talented than everybody else. Yeah. You just work hard, you get the job, you ball out, you put up outrageous numbers. Yeah, man. And you have stuff on tape.
I couldn't agree more. He's at Ohio State. I don't know what the quarterback situation is in Ohio or Cincinnati, but I mean,
he probably wouldn't beat out Nathan Rourke this year at Ohio.
I'm not saying he would. I'm just saying a program comparable to one of those two.
No, I know.
There, throw for 4,000 yards.
Nathan Rourke,
Nathan Rourke for president.
Yeah. Air Canada, they call him.
They call him what?
Air Canada. He's
Air
from Canada. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Fun facts.
I believe that concludes the FBS segment of our show today, and you know what that means. You know what time it is?
Colonial time?
It is colonial time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first installment of a weekly segment dedicated to the Colonial Athletic Association.
Feels good to say.
Man, it does. We are fresh off of our CAA training camp road trip from Norfolk to Williamsburg to Richmond to Harrison.
You got it. Yeah, there you go.
And Baltimore. 11-ish days. I lost count. It was long.
It was 11 if you count the travel days on the front and back end.
I count them.
Okay.
I count them. It was long. I missed my wife and
Yeah.
my dog for the most part in that order. But it was the absolute best way for you and me to get acquainted with the best FCS league in the country.
The deepest, the most competitive.
Absolutely. By every metric.
You name it, we got it.
We do have a plan for this particular part of the show today, but before we do it, I would like to put you on the spot.
Okay.
During our road trip, we had really phenomenal cuisine from beginning to end.
We did.
Made some really good choices. Of those really good choices, what was the favorite restaurant of yours for the road trip?
There are a lot of great choices. I'm gonna go, and we can never remember the name of this place, but the pizza that we had in Baltimore on Saturday
I should
night.
be able to remember the name of it because I'm the one.
What was that? Hamden?
It was in Hampton. Hamden.
Near Johns Hopkins.
Very near Johns Hopkins. Which has a shortage of decent bars.
It was a brick oven pizza, right?
Yeah.
It was very good. And I was pleasantly surprised because I could not read or pronounce or know what anything on the menu was.
For those of you who were not lucky enough to be there, Kyle was Googling every ingredient
Listen, I'm not
we could put on our pizza.
a food aficionado like you and Wells are. So I was in way over my head, and I was just letting you guys do the ordering.
Man, but it went well, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah, that place was great. I would like to nominate Jimmy Madison's.
Okay.
The chicken fried steak approached moonshine in Austin level good, which is to say that it was close to being the best I've ever had.
Okay.
The old fashioned was very good, both of them. And
I liked sitting on the roof.
Yeah,
It was a great
the
night.
roof, the ambiance, man. You're looking out over the town that I can never say, and it was incredible. Beautiful night to be outside. It's 148 here today, approximately.
Yeah.
So to be there in 80-degree weather, looking off the rooftop, down at the citizens of Harrisonburg.
There you go.
It was there. I got it now.
Smooth.
I'm good to go,
Yeah.
man. It was really good. The Jimmy Sprouts, by the way. Unlike any Brussels sprouts I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
I know you didn't try them because you're not a big Brussels guy.
I'm not.
But let me just tell you, if you're ever back there, you should try them. Yeah, it was Jimmy's for the win. In fact, if you're ever in that town for a James Madison game, just stick to the name James Madison in all things.
Oh, yeah.
James Madison football, Hotel Madison, Jimmy Madison's the restaurant. They're all winners.
Yeah.
That's my advice. And actually, it's probably good advice for anyone not named North Dakota State because you would imagine that the road to Frisco, Texas very likely will go through the Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah, great transition there.
I thought so.
I believe the road to Frisco goes through Harrisonburg, and it starts with the defense where there is a starter back at every single position.
Is that good?
That is good.
Oh, okay.
And it is really good when you have starters like Rashad Robinson, Rondell Carter, D'Angelo Amos, John Daka, Dimitri Holloway. I can go on and on and on. This is probably the best defense in the FCS and is better than the majority of FBS defenses.
Shots fired.
Ben DiNucci, Coach Gnetti named him the starter. JMU fans a little hot and cold on him, but when you look at his numbers, they were fantastic last year, and he's a true dual-threat guy. He can beat you with his legs, too, and then you have just a lot of weapons at wide receiver back. 3 guys that accounted for 1,800 yards and 15 scores a year ago. And the schedule sets up favorably. You know, you have the tough game at West Virginia. to start the year, but then you get Towson, Villanova, New Hampshire, Richmond, which are probably your tougher CAA games, all in Harrisonburg at that beautiful stadium. And then your toughest games at Elon and at Stony Brook are in back-to-back weeks. But I think it's a path that's manageable for JMU.
For JMU. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it all. All I would add is that, Signetti, obviously the coaching tree is very well documented, but doing what he did at Elon, winning big there and probably bigger if he doesn't lose Davis Cheek last year.
Absolutely.
That's phenomenal. I mean, that speaks volumes in and of itself. And then, again, the defensive side of the ball for them, they have a chance to be really, really dominant. They've got some NFL guys on that side of the ball, two of which you named, in Carter and Rashad Robinson. So, yeah, JMU seems to be the odds-on favorite to be the leader in the clubhouse, so to speak, out of the CAA, as everyone is aiming for Frisco. But I'm going to go with Towson.
Okay.
15 starters back, not 22, but 15 starters back from a team that hosted a first-round playoff game last year. Lindy's, if you're familiar with the preview magazine, has them ranked number 6, which is 5 spots ahead of JMU, which I thought was a bit curious. Yeah. So JMU's number 2 in the coaches poll, but they check in at number 11 in Lindy's preseason poll. So there's that. But I'm buying the hype on Towson. They have, again, the 15 guys back, among them the 2018 Offensive Player of the Year and the one and the only Tom Flacco, not to be confused with Joe. And yes, he is elite. And you're talking about a guy who might be the most versatile back in the championship subdivision in Shane Simpson. Shane Leatherbury on the outside, Darian Street, the younger brother of Devin Street. So we got NFL brothers all over this team.
We do.
Question marks on defense, sure, but they're not without some, again, for lack of a better term, dudes on that side of the ball as well. Obviously, my man Tebow anchors the defensive line, who we quite enjoyed our conversation with.
He was great, yeah.
But Oklahoma transfer Ricky Deberry is back again. He made 9 starts a year ago. You would expect him to pop this year. NC State transfer Troy Vincent, same kind of thing. He was kind of quiet last year. He showed flashes, had a fumble return for a touchdown. You would think that both of those guys would really kind of come into their own this year. And I'll tell you what, Terrell Gillette really stood out to me while we were there. That's a guy, not just in his play on the field, but his leadership off the field, on the sidelines. He was really coaching the guys up in the middle of practice. And, it's not out of the ordinary to see guys coaching guys up, but the way that he kind of commanded their attention was really impressive to watch. The schedule is not exactly favorable, with road trips to JMU, Stony Brook, and Maine. But look, man, it's a CAA. Every schedule is going to look kind of daunting. I think for a program that has the talent level that Towson has, it's doable. And if they're right, they can play with anybody. I joked about Florida earlier, but don't be shocked if that game is close in the second quarter, because the frontline talent at Towson is very real. And not for nothing, Rob Ambrose is the head coach that I would most like to have a beer or 3 with if ever given the opportunity. And I don't know if that's worth any additional points on the scoreboard, but I felt as though worth mentioning here.
You know what? He was great. He was very welcoming.
Okay, so yeah, JMU Towson, not really surprise choices, but let's be real.
Towson, you're less concerned about the defense when you have an offense like that. If going into the game, well, we're going to score this much. You don't need that many stops.
Yeah, they're going to put up points, and again, it's not a situation where, and look, we got to see a lot of teams while we were on the road. There are teams that you walk on the field and you're like, that's a problem. That position group is a problem. That side of the ball is a problem. Or the opposite. That position group is very good. Yeah. That player is whatever it is. With Towson, I didn't walk on the field and go, I'm worried about their defense.
No, not at all.
They look the part on defense. They've got a few guys who jump out at you, and they don't have any glaring position groups where you look at them and you go, God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to your point, I think, put points on the board, which should not be a problem. Flacco, as Ambrose very clearly explained to us, not just a good player, but a hell of a leader, and a guy that'll go to battle for his guys, and they'll follow him. So that's always a good thing. You got to have that guy behind center who will lead the way. But again, the weapons with Leatherbury and Simpson and Street and on and on and on. I mean, we were in the film room with the wide receivers coach, and he pointed out pretty much every guy on his team, it felt like. So
a lot of young talent, too.
They are not short on confidence, and I'm excited to watch them play.
Same. What
team is not ranked number 2 on the coaches poll or number 6 on Lindy's top 25? A team that no one is talking about yet that you think is going to jump up and surprise some people. Actually, let me go first.
Yeah.
Let me go first.
Go for it.
Because I don't want you to steal mine.
Okay.
I'm going Richmond Spiders.
Okay.
And I know a lot of that comes from,
we visited
just
there.
Being around the program, yeah. But, yeah, it's pretty impressive when you pull into their campus and it's in the middle of a forest in Virginia and you feel like you just rolled up to Hogwarts. Pretty cool. But I feel like they're much closer to being what we traditionally expect Richmond to be than what people think. And defensively, of course, everyone knows they're led by CAA Defensive Player of the Year, preseason Defensive Player of the Year, Maurice Jackson. And I think there is an expectation for incremental improvement year over year for that unit, so that's fine. The offensive side of the ball is where I think people are sleeping on them a lot, though. And I think that there's a chance there for some real noticeable improvement, especially at wide receiver, where 2 graduate transfers, Charlie Fessler from Northwestern, Keaston Fuller from Duke, both those guys really flashed as being legit difference makers in that offense. Fessler played at Northwestern. I mean, well, for that matter, Fuller played at Duke. But I mean, Fessler was on the field in crunch time. Big Ten championship, had 3 catches.
I was about to say, Big Ten championship game was on the field and was getting the ball.
And as soon as you walk on the field, 9 jumps out at you.
Yeah.
6'4", 225. I mean, or 220, whatever he is. That's a guy that you're like, okay. And you don't see those everywhere. I mean, every program you go to, there's not a guy in the wide receiver group that jumps out. Fessler did immediately. Fuller did when they started going team, and I'm watching this dude just run by people.
Right.
He is an absolute burner. Fessler, again, big body guy, and his head coach was not shy about telling me that he expects him to lead the team, 70 catches, give or take.
Yeah.
And most head coaches, Coach Huseman says that about him. Most head coaches won't say that about a player. They want to kind of play it coy, but he was very forthcoming in the fact that he has very high expectations for Fessler, and he's just a good dude. The other story that we got from Coach Huseman was that after spring ball, Fessler was driving home, and he fired off a text just to thank his coach for giving him the opportunity. And this is a kid that came from a Power 5 program, played for a Big Ten championship, and now he's at Richmond, and there is no sense of entitlement. It's just gratitude for the opportunity, which I think speaks volumes about the kid. With Richmond, ultimately, it's going to come down, in my opinion, to 2 things. First of all, can Joe Mancuso make the jump? Can he take the next step in his development? He's a guy who definitely looks the part of a QB1. When you walk out there, I mean, he looks like a stud.
Yep.
But he completed 58% of his throws last year, 10 picks against 7 touchdowns. That's not really what you're looking for. And in fact, ball control and not turning the thing over was a big topic of conversation while we were there. And they have to improve on that. And that ultimately, Joe is the guy that is pulling the trigger. Yeah. So you got to see improvement there. And if it's not him on offense, then with respect to Reed Chenault, I think Bo English, the Air Force transfer, is the guy it has to be, because we kind of know what Chenault is, and that's a guy that can manage the offense. But for Richmond to be good, their quarterback has to be very good. So the upside with Bo English is at least appealing, right? And regardless of whether it's English or Chenault or Mancuso, one of the 3 of them has got to take control of the offense, and they've got to have a good year, because Richmond's going to throw that thing around the yard. And that's my second point. They have got to run the ball enough to keep opposing defenses honest. The quarterback led the team in rushing a year ago. The only running back no running back had more than 225 yards on the ground. And part of that, as we talked about while we were there, can be attributed to the fact that Aaron Dykes only played in 4 games.
Right.
And he seems to be the guy, or one of the guys, who's really going to carry the load for them. But regardless of who it is, somebody has got to step. Your quarterback cannot lead you in rushing again this year. No. You got to have a guy step up and take control. Even if you're going with a committee, there has to be a guy who really stands out for them. So quarterback play, move the ball on the ground. If they'll do those things, I think Richmond is a team that could very easily be in the playoffs.
And they were 10th in the CAA preseason?
Yeah,
poll?
10th.
Yeah. I don't see that happening either.
I don't either. I think, again, I think when people pick them 10th, I think they did that without even being aware of Fuller and Fessler.
Well, that was going to be my next point is it's a good thing we did visit them because we got to see – we can read on paper about Fuller and Fessler, but until you, like, see them and, like, see how well they're doing and performing, you're not going to think that they can make the playoff or take that huge jump up from 10.
No, yeah, I think and I'll tell you this, man. I mean, Houston ran a really energetic camp. Or for the 2 days we were there, felt that way.
Intense.
It was, yeah. There was really high energy. The coaches had an intensity level that was rarely matched. Even in the weight room, you know, they were getting after it. They were having a good time. So I really like the culture at Richmond, and I really like a lot of the players they've got on that team. And I believe if they can get quarterback play to complement the wide receivers they've got available on the outside, that sky's the limit for them.
I like it because I definitely don't think they're finishing 10th in the conference.
No. Who you got?
For my surprise team, I'm going to go with someone we did not visit, the Delaware Blue Hens. And I think 5th in the preseason CAA poll. They win 7 games a year ago, get back in the playoffs for the first time since 2010. They'd kind of been on a rare downswing for that program. But the main reason that I do like them to finish possibly even higher than that and go further than the first round in the playoffs is because of the man we will talk to in just a little bit, Pacquiao. 17 touchdowns, 2,000 yards last year, started all 12 games. I see him taking another step up to breaking that 3,000-yard passing and getting to like 25 touchdowns. Almost all your offensive line is back, which is huge, and keeping Keogh clean. DeJuan Lee, as a young guy, ran for 600 yards last year. And the schedule helps, too. JMU or Maine, which when you're trying to rack up wins.
Yeah, it helps to get two of the big three off your schedule this year.
So that helps. And then your home games, New Hampshire, Richmond, Albany, Stony Brook, are all easily winnable games. Stony Brook returning playoff team, but you got to imagine that they're right there with New Hampshire, Richmond, and Albany. And then so you win all your home games, minus NDSU probably, North Dakota State.
Yeah.
And
don't count out the Blue Hens, man.
I'm not. I'm going to favor the 7-time national champions.
That's fair.
Then you steal a road game at either Elon or Villanova. You're sitting at 8-4.
Yeah.
So
playoffs.
Yeah, exactly, and probably setting yourself up pretty well in those playoffs. And then another thing that is pretty remarkable with Danny Rocco, the head coach. So he's been head coach for 13 seasons at 3 different schools: Liberty, Richmond, Delaware. He's never lost less than 6 games, and he's only had 2 6-win seasons. So he's always been above 6 wins except 2 years in 13 years. That's pretty incredible.
That's really good consistency.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Former Richmond coach.
Yeah.
I should have used that as a segue. Yeah. That would have been good. I think with Delaware, they'll go as far as Pat Keogh can take them. Really impressive kid, big arm. Didn't have anything handed to him. Had to go about things the right way to get that job, take that job. It means a whole lot to him. We had a chance to talk to him about that in Baltimore when we caught up with him a few weeks ago. And just had a few minutes with him. Got to talk to him about his path and the upcoming season. And let's check that out right now. All right, Pat Keogh, the quarterback of Delaware. Look, man, I think that the best place for us to start here is really just to take it all the way back to kind of the beginning of your trajectory to this point. So high school, You go 32-4 as a starter. You throw for about 1 million yards, 95 touchdowns. You're 3-time All-League, first team All-New England as a senior. I know I'm leaving some stuff out, but the point is you were a star. And then you come to Delaware and you sit, and you sit, and you sit. Now, this is an interview about you, not me, but my background is in student-athlete psychology. And you, and that type of a case study is incredibly fascinating to me because you had to exercise such a level of patience, and the change in one experience to the other was stark. If you could take me through going from being a man in high school to having to wait your turn and be patient at Delaware and what that was like for you, I think that would be phenomenal.
I view it as a big maturation process. coming from high school, you say you want to call me a star or whatever, but I mean, I did what I...
Look, man, 95 touchdowns,
Numbers don't
7,800
lie.
yards.
I mean, I was in the right system. I had a great supporting cast. If you look at the people I played with in high school that are now playing college football, I had a great supporting cast, but so it really wasn't all me. But, you know, coming from being the man in high school, you come to college and everybody that you're playing with was the man in high school. So, you know, you really got to learn you got to work at a level that you've never done, because in order to achieve something that you've never done, you have to do things in preparation that you've never done. So I think those first 3 years were really something that, you know, I had to learn, and I needed to figure out what I needed to do to, you know, kind of get an edge on guys now. You know, obviously, I wish I could have gotten on the field quicker, but it happened the way it did for a reason. I mean, I've learned so many different things. I've been through now on my 3rd different offense, 2nd coaching staff. I've had, I think, 4 different quarterback coaches, now 3 different offensive coordinators. So, I mean, it's been a long journey of just learning a bunch of football, and that's, at the end of the day, what I'm thankful for, because, you know, my knowledge of the game, it makes me feel comfortable on the field now.
Yeah.
In today's day and age of college football, someone doesn't get the starting job and they're gone after spring.
Mm-hmm.
How tough was it to stick around and stay patient that entire time and not want to try to leave and go somewhere else where you maybe could get on the field?
Well, I mean, the thought came into my mind when I was a freshman. Maybe I wasn't happy or anything like that, but it was a quick thought, because, you know, I chose the University of Delaware for a reason. You know, it may sound cliche, but people say in the recruiting process, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. And I decided I want to go to the University of Delaware. I wanted to graduate. I wanted to be a Blue Hen, so that's what really made me stick it out. I knew I could play at the level. I just had to get there myself. And, you know, overall, I think it'll make me a better person for the long run for doing what I did. It may seem unconventional nowadays, but it was really the only option in my head.
Well, we're glad you stayed.
Yeah, so am I.
So I read that you're a triplet.
Yep.
And your brother MJ, correct me if I'm wrong, he's on the offensive line?
Yep, he's played offensive line, tight end, now he's back on the offensive line.
Okay. So if you're on your back, it's his fault. And then your dad is a legendary high school basketball coach in New England, correct?
Yep.
How competitive is your household?
It's pretty competitive. You know, my sister, Michaela, or Trey, I've never called her Michaela in my life, actually. She was the 3rd one born, we call her Trey. She was also a big competitor just like us. Even my dad would probably say she was probably the best athlete. But, you know, it's a competitive house. And then my mom was the brains. That's what she takes credit for. She took the academic side, my dad was on the athletic side, but every day it was competing, whether it was basketball, baseball, football, volleyball with my sister. You know, it was fun, and it bred us to...
Well, I mean, look, for you as, you know, the quarterback now, and we'll talk about your future in a minute, but what type of benefit do you take from being in a family like that, that level of competitive, with a dad whose literal career is molding, you know, young athletes and trying to shape them as athletes and individuals?
Yeah.
You grow up in that environment, and you grow up with 2 contemporaries who are quite literally the exact same age, the exact same, you know, hour, minute, you know, whatever. What do you take from that? How does that help you do your job right now?
It's just made me comfortable in the situation. The hardest I've ever been coach, and the biggest critic that I've ever had in my life was my father, because, you know, he saw potential in us, and he always told me, the day I stop yelling at you is the day that I don't believe that you can do it. And he still hasn't stopped yelling at me. So that's a good sign. And, you know, I take those words to heart, because, you know, when it may seem like somebody's yelling at you, they might be mad, but you got to listen to what they're saying, not how they're saying it, because there's always a lesson to be learned in every situation. And, you know, I'm thankful for my father and all he's done, and my siblings for pushing each other. And it's really just molded us into the people we are and the competitors we are, and it's helped us be successful this far in life.
Sure.
Delaware has had, you know, great long line of quarterbacks be successful, and go on to even, you know, the next level. Yeah. Do you feel kind of a certain responsibility being the quarterback of Delaware, or feel that at all?
I know it's there. I try not to feel it, because, you know, that's just placing unnecessary stress on yourself. But I mean, it's something we talked about in the quarterback room. It's like, you come from a long lineage of success, and to be the man in that room right now is a great honor. And I want to carry that on and pass it on to the next guys that come behind me. You know, we have a great room of young guys that are going to be successful in the future. So that's just something I take as an honor as a starting quarterback and as a captain. it's something that a select few men in this world have done at the University of Delaware. So I'm proud to be one of them.
2019, again, you're the captain of the ship, so to speak. What are the team goals for Delaware? What are your individual goals for this year?
Well, most of my goals are all featured around the team because, I stayed at the university because I believe in this program. Our team goals is to win a CAA title and then compete in the playoffs for a national championship. So, we want to go back to the FCS playoffs again for the second year in a row. And then we want to compete in there and just, we want to try to make it to Frisco.
No question. Let's end with this. Where is Pacquiao in 5 years?
Wow. It's a tough question, but, I love football. I love sports in general. My two loves growing up were football and basketball. I didn't decide that I was going to play college football until going into my senior year. So I think in 5 years probably, if I'm fortunate to go to the next level, I'm going to give my all to that. But I'll probably be coaching once my football career is over, whether it's football or basketball or both. That's what I love. I love trying to help the youth that shares the same passion as me try to achieve their goals. Like I've had great mentors in my life and coaches do that for me. So that's kind of a passion I have and what I want to get into once my playing career is over.
Well, before your playing career is over, man, we're really looking forward to watching you this season for Delaware. And I mean, this partnership is one that we're thrilled about, and you're a huge reason why. So thanks very much for your time. Can't wait till this fall.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
And that was Pat Keogh, again, really impressive guy.
Yeah.
Everybody we talked to at CAA Media Day was impressive. Some guys stood out, and Pat was one of those guys who, I would get in a huddle with. I'd run into a brick wall for. I think that he'll do a really good job of leading Delaware this year, and we're excited to watch him.
Absolutely.
Villanova opens the 2019 college football season.
I know.
A lot of talk about Florida and Miami, but Villanova opens the college football season at Colgate on Saturday at noon Eastern. The game is on CBS Sports if you're into that kind of thing. But we are 1 week away from week number 1 as opposed to week 0, which means Delaware State, Bryant, Stony Brook, live on FloFootball.com and the Flo Sports app on Thursday, August the 29th, followed by Sacred Heart and Maine on Friday, followed by William and Mary hosting Lafayette on Saturday. That will be the first 4 of 70. Oh, we got more?
Jacksonville, Richmond on Thursday night as well.
Oh, my gosh, my Spiders. Okay, we got on Thursday night, you said?
Yeah.
Triple header on Thursday night. So 5 games in the first 3 days of the season, and we got 65 more to go after that on Flo this year. So keep your eyes on FloFootball.com, not just for the live events, but for the daily CAA coverage as well. We're churning that stuff out pretty good right now. We've also got 3 all-access pieces with William and Mary, Richmond, and Towson. Yeah, so those will all be coming out between now and this time next week. And so, yeah, get on the World Wide Web and consume that content. All right, Kyle, last, certainly not least, there likely will not be an episode of Bootleg next week.
That's sad, but
a realization that I arrived at this morning.
It's sad, but also exciting because of why.
That's right. Because the why is we will be waist deep at the Freedom Bowl in Atlanta, hot Atlanta, Milton, if you prefer.
Milton, yeah.
Defending Georgia State champ Milton kicks things off on its home field against rival Alpharetta on Thursday night, followed by 5 more games on Friday and Saturday. Check my math. I have a bad habit of
you're right.
Messing the math up.
You nailed it.
That means Robbie Ashford, Alabama's top-ranked quarterback prospect, and Hoover. That means Penn State commit Keziah Holmes and Coco. That means the number 1 safety in the 2021 class, James Williams, and Western. It's the mother flipping Freedom Bowl.
You nailed it, man. It's a really cool event. Last year was the first year, and it did not feel like that because it was so well run and just really impressive. And the competition took another step up this year, too.
Did you think I was going to say the F word?
It would have been awesome if you did. I was waiting to see where you went with it.
No, man, it's our favorite high school event. Just because of everything that it represents, everything that it is. We love, the organizers of the event, Dave Menard, Adam Clack, the head coach at Milton, is a great dude. We love that they're the host. So we're looking forward to it. We'll head out there on Wednesday. We'll be there for all the coverage Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And again, alongside all of that, we have all of our CAA football action as well. It's going to be a big week.
It's huge.
It's going to be a really big week, big season. We're excited. Is there anything that I failed to mention on today's show?
No. We could have gone a lot longer,
We could have probably done 2 solid hours today.
Yeah.
I really think we could have, but they're not going to let us. So without further ado, I will put a bow on today's show. Kyle, let the people know that the key to running the bootleg
is doing it naked.